I am so happy to have each and every one of you with us this morning. We hope you had an enjoyable Christmas and you're looking forward to the possibilities of the new year with anticipation. We know that 2020 was a challenge. If anybody says 2020 wasn't a challenge, they are not truthful. I'm not going to say that they are lying. I'm just going to say that they are not truthful if they say that. But it was a challenge. But amidst the challenge, there were also opportunities, and some persons were able to capitalize on those opportunities. For those of us who did not capitalize on the opportunities, once we're here, we have an opportunity to do it again. So let's look at it as the glass being half full instead of being half empty. Now, I want to extend a warm welcome to those of you who are joining us for the very first time. What you may or may not know is that we have been doing these sessions since April 2020 because we recognized immediately that the coronavirus and the whole pandemic situation would have thrown a lot of our small business people into turmoil. They didn't know what to do, they didn't know where to go. And so we wanted to be that voice of assurance and voice of reason during the time. And so we launched a series of webinars, including this one that you are in this morning, the JBDC Virtual Biz Zone. And so welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time. And of course, we also have to welcome and thank our attendees that have always been here with us. It seems as if our presenter got kicked out of the room again. Yes. Welcome to those of you who have always been here with us. We so appreciate your support. Um, this morning we should have been joined by our friends from Tax Administration Jamaica. They were going to be sharing with us about some of the statutory obligations as it relates to um, how businesses will operate. How do you file in light of the pandemic and stuff? Rogerlene Millwood. She has been with TAJ for 16 years, serving in different departments and different capacities. She's a graduate of the University College of the Caribbean, and she currently serves as taxpayer education officer in the taxpayer education unit for the past 3 years. Miss Millwood will make the presentation and then we will facilitate some questions and answers. However, if you have questions during the presentation, please feel free to drop it in the chat and we will ensure that we take those questions when the time is right. So I'm going to go ahead and hand over to Miss Millwood and I will be sharing my screen. So Rogerlene, you just let me know when I should go ahead and share. All right.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me, Miss Campbell. And TJ is always pleased and happy to be a part of an adventure like this, in carrying out our mandate and also to inform and educate business persons as they go along of their tax responsibilities and their obligations. So you can go ahead. Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
and thank you, participants, as well. As we, as we embark in this new era of online and also webinars, from time to time we'll have little challenges like this. I really thank you. All right, as Ms. Campbell had introduced, I'm Rogerlene Millwood again from Tax Administration, the Taxpayer Education Unit. Now, this presentation today is intended to provide you with a basic tax information when operating your business. All entrepreneurs should know their tax responsibilities, rights, and obligations. So you can switch from me, Miss Campbell. All right, so what our tax system, what is it about? Jamaica has a self-assessment tax system which gives taxpayers greater control and responsibility over their tax affairs. Taxpayers should be able to calculate, file, and pay their taxes at specific times set by the revenue authorities. That is, where the individual fails to file his or her return, and the Commissioner General is empowered to raise estimated assessment. So, other than that, we don't have to tell us how much money you should pay. You tell us based on your records, you present that to us, and then all the calculations are done. And then you'll know how much to pay from your calculations and from your income that you would have derived from your records. All right, next slide. All right, so you might ask, okay, we just registered a business, maybe especially in COVID time, and you want to know, okay, why do I really need to pay taxes? So we just delve in some, just a few pointers, but taxation on a whole is wide. We use the money for so many other different things, but just to zoom in on infrastructure, your taxation is at work there for roads, street lights, the Ministry of National Security, for healthcare. As you know, some public hospitals, they really do not charge registration fees. We'll zoom in on the National Health Fund, Jamaica Drugs for the elderly program, that's JDEP, and also the program for advancement through health and education, the PATH program. But those are just like a tip of the iceberg because, as you know, public high schools, they do not pay tuition fees. And hence the education tax plunge into the education system, pays the teachers, and basically take care of the maintenance of the system. And I could go on and on. Right, and it also pays, public sector workers and the government and the day-to-day running of the country. So that's where the benefits of you paying your taxes are. So, what every entrepreneur should know, like yourself, business taxes and fees. So, you can switch to the next slide, Miss Campbell. So, you should know what you are liable to file, what taxes you're liable to pay. You should also know about tax compliance, record keeping, and your rights and obligations. So, we're just going to delve in those quickly. So, we're going to go to business taxes and fees. So the rates as self-employed individuals, the NIS basically is a bigger rate now. Stands at 5.875% of your net profit or your net income. The National Housing Trust NHT stands at 3% of your net income or profit. The education tax is 2.25% of your income or statutory income. So the statutory income is your net income or net profits less the NIS that you'd have paid within the year of assessment. And also, if you're contributing to any approved pension scheme, we factor in that calculation, and you'll end up paying less in education tax. Sorry. So the income tax, which some persons fear, is we have two rates, 25% and 30%. 25% is if your profit or income is up to $6 million, and 30% is anything or any amount thereafter, the 6 million. All right, so that's for the self-employed individuals. I just want to go to the company first, and then I can go back to the forms that the self-employed persons would be required to use. Remember that we're just going through the presentation so you can make your jottings of any questions, anything that you're not certain of, and I know I can address it at the end of the presentation. So for those persons who are I've had sorry, who have a registered limited liability company, the company income tax is 25% of your net income or net profit. And for those individuals who are engaged in a partnership, then the partnership, they don't necessarily pay an income tax. What we do is we ask that you file the return at the end of the year, present your financial statement, and if there is a profit at the end of the year, then we ask that you differentiate the share of partnership income that each partner would be receiving at the end of the year, and the partners now would in turn file their own income tax. And that is basically the self-employed form that we're going to look at right now. So most persons would be filing the income tax return that is called the SO4 form, and some persons would be familiar with this form, some might be just new to this form. It is an amalgamated form. Um, it includes NIS, NHT, and education tax as well. One form is done per year, and it's normally due on or before March 15 of the following year. And once you plunge your income on that form, which is mandatory to be done online, which we're gonna expound on a little bit later, then you'll know how the calculations are done. But for now, so just one form for the self-employed individual that captures income tax, NIS, NHT, and education tax. And not to worry, the system normally does all the calculations for you once you plunge in your figures. All right. So we go to trade and business license. That's a fee that is applicable to persons who are carrying on a trade, meaning you're in the business of buying and selling. So what we ask that you do is once you're operating within a period of 3 months to a year, we ask that you come into the tax office, you declare your gross sales on the form, and there is a class width that once your sales fall within that bracket, then you'll know how much to pay. All right, some persons I know might just start off, might have an online business, or maybe just be operating from home. And trade and business license actually applies to entrepreneurs who have an establishment set up. So you have your space, your office space or your shop space. You have a sign set up outside, then we're saying that you should be paying trade and business license. It is a fee that is collected by the parish council. However, the tax office collect that fee on behalf of the parish council. All right, so payroll taxes is another thing that we look at once you are operating a business. Once you have employees and they are in a contract of a service type of employment, meaning that you provide the tools for them, they are being supervised, then we ask that you withhold from them the payroll taxes, which is the education tax, the NIS, the NHT, and the PAYE, which is also called the income tax. So the payroll taxes, they are summarized at the end of the month. It is submitted to the form, which is also mandatory to be done online, and you can make online or choose to make payments in office. The general consumption tax is something else that you need to know about. Once you're operating in a GCT taxable activity, and your actual sales or your actual income has reached 833,000 for the month, or 10 million for the year, that's your actual sales or your actual income, we ask that you come into the office and you register for GCT, which is 15% of whatever sales you're doing or even service that you offer, and you make that payment over to the government. So the general consumption tax is not necessarily an additional tax for you to pay, but is you collecting that amount from the nature of business that you're doing or service that you're offering, collect that for the government, and you pay it over monthly. All right. Tax compliance. So, tax compliance is the degree to which a taxpayer complies or fails to comply with the Jamaica's tax laws. No, a major part of tax administration's mission is to foster voluntary compliance and resolve possibilities such as we use taxpayer education to educate and inform. We use taxpayer assistance. So at the end of each year, leading up to March 15th of the following year, which is around this time, we normally invite persons to come in and we assist them to file these tax returns that I just mentioned to you about. If that you know that well you need assistance, or if it's a case where okay you cannot afford an accountant at this time. Another thing that we use to enforce tax compliance is penalties. So when I'll be looking at the due dates, I'm gonna be touching on the penalties somewhere on that. All right. So record keeping, a very important aspect of your business and also from the tax laws. So you as a business operator, you are required by law to maintain proper records in English to substantiate your income and also your expenses. Based on the act as well, business records are to be maintained for a minimum of 6 years. We really stress on record keeping because what we find um happening is over the years, persons, okay, they come, they do the SO4 form, and they just off the top of the head, they just say, okay, I'm gonna make like a $500,000 or $1 million, and they leave it right there. And there's no record or no documents to substantiate where their claim on the form. And mark you, you can be visited or you can be audited by a tax auditor at any time. Once you file these tax returns, they can call at any time and say, okay, Miss Brown, we see that you have made a claim that your income was 500,000 for the year 2020. We would like to see your records to back up this claim. And if it's a case where you're unable to substantiate your claim, then you are liable for a tax assessment. Mean you can be assessed for more money to be paid. So we really do encourage you. It's important for you to keep records. And the benefits of record keeping, all right, it monitors the progress of your business. It prepares your financial statements at the end of the year. It identifies your sources of income. It keeps a track of your deductible expenses. It prepares your tax returns basically. So for those persons who have been keeping clean records, they will realize that at the end of the year when they should be doing their tax returns, that you don't even necessarily need an accountant because all you'll do is you just pull in your figures from your records. So your total says all you do is just summarize that information and drop it on to your tax returns or your business expenses. You just drop it on. So it's very easy and it is cost effective as well. So you don't have to be worrying, okay, I need to get an accountant. The accountants are so expensive. No, you can do your own tax returns once you have your records intact. All right. It also supports items reported on your tax returns of what we have been speaking on. All right. So we're saying that as a taxpayer, you have certain rights and obligations, and we're just gonna go straight into that. Honesty, we look on that, very important. You should be honest in your dealings with any department of tax administration. So we say any department because tax administration is wide and we have various departments. We have compliance, we have taxpayer education, we have stamp duty and transfer tax, we have the excise duty department. So we're asking that at all times that you be honest and give us correct information. Also, you should file your correct tax returns and documents and provide complete and accurate information within time limits specified. And the time limit specified here is referring to your tax due dates. All right, so you should pay your tax due on time. And we touch on the record keeping, that you should keep sufficient records to enable your tax liability to be ascertained accurately. And a very important part of your obligation is keeping us informed. You should keep us informed if you have a change of business, your mailing address, your business address, your business name as well, because when you, if you realize that when you go to company's office and do certain changes, that it is not captured on tax administration's website, or even on our information system that we have. So we ask that once you make those changes at company's office, that you come and inform us. And something as simple as a telephone number is very important, very vital to us, and we ask that you inform us as well. And how that is done, let me just touch on that a little. We ask that you come into the Taxpayer Service Unit. That's the section that deals with the taxpayer registration numbers, the TRN, and you complete a TRN supplemental form, and you present your ID, and we update the system same time with those changes. All right, so one might ask, okay, we spoke about the tax returns and how they can be done. Um, as I touched on it before, that they are mandatory to be done online. Let me just go back a little and speak on the due dates. So the self-employed form for the sole traders, um, it's called the SO4, and that is due once per year. The company income tax return form, that is for limited liability companies, is called a ITO2, that is due once per year as well. And the partnership income tax return, which is the ITO3, all three forms are due on or before March 15 of the following year. So if it's a case where you are new in the taxnet and you registered your business in 2020, or your company in 2020, then your first income tax return becomes due on or before March 15 of this year, 2021. The promise to make mention of the penalties. Once these forms are submitted after March 15, based on the Income Tax Act, there's a penalty charge of $5,000 per month from the due date up until the month that you file the form. So, for example, you really did not know, or you really did not remember, and you file your form in September 2021, then you will be billed $5,000 per month from March right up to September. So that is March, April, May, June, July, August, September. That's 7 months, and 7 5 is 35. That's $35,000 in penalty alone that you will be required to pay, or you are liable to pay. Of course, we have waiver options, but the waivers are not necessarily a guarantee that you'll get it. And you have to be in dire circumstances, or make those circumstances known to the committee before they actually grant you a waiver. So, and it's a lengthy process. It's 6 to 8 months before they review your case and you actually know if you get a waiver or not. And meanwhile you're waiting, then the interest is calculated on a daily basis, and the interest is 1.5% of the principal. So we really do say it is important for you to remember your due dates and also to file on time. So how do you get started if you're pretty much new in the tax net? We encourage you to visit the Jamaica tax website, which we're gonna show on your screen shortly, and you register for an online account. You wait for it to be approved by TAJ, and after it is approved, you get access to go on the website or from your online portal, register for the income tax account, and you can do your tax file. All right, so file returns anytime and anywhere, which is 24/7, of course, So if it's a case where you registered your business in Jamaica and you flew out to Egypt, you can't get to come back because of the COVID protocols or the COVID restrictions, then you can stay right there in Egypt once you have internet connection and do your tax filing before March 15th or by March 15th. So we're saying that persons shouldn't necessarily have any excuse going forward. No, because you have everything at your fingertips. All right. It saves time, meaning that no more waiting in line, only if you actually come in to pay, and there's an option for you to pay online as well, even to do what we call a direct funds transfer from your account to TJ's account. So we don't necessarily need to see you in office. Only if you choose that, okay, I don't want to use my cards online, I'm still iffy about that, then you come in and you make your payments in office. It reduces paperwork, definitely from your side and from OTAJ side as well. And it allows you to view your account summary, and you can always go back. Suppose to say, okay, I think I missed off an expense, or I don't think this was done correctly. You always have the option. If it's even 2 o'clock in the night, you can go on your online account and you can make amendment to your form. So you have that at your fingertip without actually coming here and completing a form to do that. All right. So for those persons who are not familiar with registering for the online account, let me just quickly go back on that. Persons must first have a Jamaica tax portal, log in to make payments as well as to register for file. You complete, we have a form that when you come in office, you submit that form along with your ID. However, uh we have another way where you can submit it from the web services. So you go on, you create your username and you create your password on that. So you'll be required, or you can always call our customer care agent, and they can guide you through on what to do. All right, so in summary, no, the need for potential and practicing entrepreneurs to know their tax responsibilities, rights, and obligations cannot be overemphasized. In a self assessment system, the onus is on you to calculate, report, and pay your tax liability. The onus is on you, not us. The onus is on us to enforce tax compliance, but the onus is on you to calculate, report, pay your tax liability, and do so on time. So, therefore, you are encouraged to register for a TRN for your business if you have not done so, comply with the tax laws, and aim to remain tax compliant. Keep proper records so that your tax liability is accurate, and also, very important, know your rights and obligations. So I'm gonna go in now and take all the questions that you have for me.
All right, great. Let me stop the share because I know that there is a lot of questions that were
Yes.
popping up in the chat. Um, Thank you so much, Rogerlene, for sharing with us. That was a very detailed presentation.
Yeah.
There was a bit of challenge when you were presenting this morning in terms of the freezing. You're freezing quite a bit, but I
Oh,
hope that we were able to,
here.
yes, to
Yeah.
hear. So persons have an opportunity now to ask
Yes.
questions. I see here in the chat where
Mhm.
persons are asking if the PowerPoint will be sent out. Is that something that you will allow, Miss Millwood?
Yes.
Yeah,
Not a
okay.
problem. Not a
Well,
problem.
I just want to say
Yes.
that usually we do not send out the PowerPoint presentations, but because there were some challenges this morning,
Right.
I will send it to the persons who were participants this morning. Um, Let me
Or what
just,
you could do is you could email me a list of the emails, and then what I could send something more condensed
okay.
to them.
All right. Somebody here, Marissa Lang, says she
Hmm.
was late and she wants to know if the quarterly requirements were mentioned. Can you go through that
Okay.
for us?
All right. So no, the quarterlies were not mentioned. So let me backtrack a bit. So the self-employed individual, yes, should file or liable to file that income tax return at the end of each year, which is on or before March 15. That's the due date. So there are two forms that are required to be completed. So one, a final income tax form that is for the previous year. So for example, now we're in the tax season, your final return is due for 2020, and an estimated return is due for 2021. So the participant is asking about the quarterly payments. Yes. When you file an estimated income tax and you estimate an income or you project an income that you think you might earn up to December of the current year, the amounts are broken down in quarters. So there are 4 quarters for the year. That is every 3 months. So we have March 15 being 1 quarter, June 15, September 15, and December 15. So those are the 4 quarters. And normally when you do the SO4A form, it is calculated for you and you'll know how much to pay per quarter.
Okay.
Yes.
Someone is asking about the due dates. If you could repeat those dates again.
Not a problem. So the forms are due on or before March 15 of the following year. So for the year 2020 and the estimate for 2021, it is due by March 15, that is 2021 this year. So
Right.
I would encourage persons to go on now. However, they're doing some updates on the form, so we're hoping that the forms will be ready maybe about the last week in January. So you don't have to wait until March 15. You can
Right.
try go on by the ending of January and you get access to your forms to
All
complete.
right. Aileen Campbell is asking for
Yes.
self-employed persons with a branch one
Yes.
attached to their TRN. Is it the ITO one
Mhm.
or the SO4 form that needs to be filed?
All right. That's a beautiful question. And it also means that this participant I've been filing for a very long time because the ITO one form is a form that we previously used prior to 2014. So we're no longer using the ITO one form. The SO4 form is a form that we're using now. And yes, persons who have branch numbers, which we also call sole trader or sole proprietor, they complete that form. SO4.
Okay,
Yes.
fabulous. More questions, lots of questions in here in
Tough problem.
Rogerlene.
Tough problem.
All right, so
Yes.
Jennifer Jones is asking, what if
Yes.
one registered in 2020, December
Right.
2020? Do
Yes.
you still have to file for 2020?
All right. So no, Jennifer, because that's basically 1 month out of the year, unless you have been operating before or prior to December 2020. Then you can file for 2020.
It's gonna come back. It's gonna come back.
Say, for example, like this.
All right, so Rogerlene, can you say it
Mhm.
again? Start from the beginning because you froze a
Sure.
while ago.
Oh yes. All right. So I was mentioning that if you know that you had started from the start of the year
Right.
and you have your sales from that time, business expenses from that time, and you just managed to get your business registered in December, then yes, we ask that you file for the year 2020. However, if you just registered in December, we know that that would just be 1 month out of an entire year. So we don't ask for you to file for 2020. What we ask you to do is just do an estimate of your income, your project and income for 2021 to get started. And that is due by March 15 as well.
Okay, great.
Yes.
All right, Max Norton. If your
Yes.
business, and she have in brackets partnership, makes
Yes.
under 500,000 in net profit, are you
Yes.
obligated to file taxes?
All right. So the partnership. Um, One, the partnership is required to submit a financial statement at the end of the year. So, for example, we're doing 2020, you submit your financial statement for the year 2020. And if there's a profit on there, then we ask that you declare to us what share each partner gets. So it's from that share of partnership income that the partners now are liable to file their income tax return on the SO4 form. So
Mm,
for example, the partnership is the partnership's net profit is 500,000 and each partner get 50% of that share of profit. Then that would split in half, $250,000 each. So each partner now using that 250,000 would declare that on their income tax form, which is the SO4, and based on the amount, which is less than the minimum wage for the year, the only thing that that partner would pay is would be NIS, because once your profit or income is below the minimum wage for the year, you only pay NIS. You don't pay the other taxes and contributions. So going back to your question, if there is a loss for the year for the partnership, then the partners in turn would not pay any taxes only if there's no additional income on their part. Because
okay, all
persons can have more than one businesses. So we have to factor in that.
right, wonderful.
Yes.
Nancy Hilton Coleman. I registered as a
Mm,
limited, I guess, limited liability company in
yes.
2019, but still have not started trading. What should I do?
All right. So what year did the person register?
2019, 29.
2019.
Yeah.
Or can I get the month if it's possible? What month in 2019?
All right, Nancy, you can just type that in the chat and I'll get back to it
Right.
shortly. Another question. I changed my business registration from partnership to sole trader in December 2020. What is required for me to regularize my tax status?
Awesome. Awesome question. Yes. All right. So you change your business registration type, but you still remain self-employed
Yeah.
because you're a partner. So we're expecting, or it's the expectation is that you're going to get a profit from the partnership. So you will still be required to file your income tax return for 2020 and an estimate for 2021. However, what you need to ensure is that the partnership that you closed out at company's office, that you do a closure at the tax office as well, because we do not communicate with company's office like that, unfortunately. And it is in your best interest to get it closed at the tax office.
Rogerlene, and I have to
Yes,
go and strike up a relationship with the company's office of
that's true.
Jamaica
That's
because I
true.
remember some years
Yes.
ago the government introduced what was called a super
The super
form.
farm, right?
Right. And I
Yes.
thought that the intention of the super form was that
Mhm.
everything would have been captured on that form and then the relevant information would be disseminated to the relevant organizations.
Oh,
Does that no longer exist?
only for the tiering.
Only
Only
for
for the tier.
TRN.
Yes. So
Okay.
business persons might realize that when they go to register with a sole trader partnership or a limited company, that they don't have
Right.
to come to the tax office and apply for a tiering for the business or company.
Okay,
So only
okay.
that's the only communication we have, but we need to work on it now, I think.
Yeah, I
Think it's
think there
time.
needs to be, especially now when we
Yes.
are a lot more confined and restricted than we were in, let's
Yes.
say, February 2020. We're a lot more restricted. We can't go and come as we please. So how do
Exactly.
we, I mean, I know you have the e-filing down pattern. One of the questions I
Yes.
wrote down for you, I
Mm-hmm.
noted that um basically for me, from what I gleaned, you
Yes.
emphasized e-filing a lot. But when it
Yes.
came to accessing the TRN or accessing any other service, it sounded as
Mm-hmm.
if we would have to come into office to do that.
Office.
So is the
Mm-hmm.
THA taking any steps to
Mm-hmm.
digitize more of the services that they provide?
They are, but it's a process.
Okay.
So, for example, the TRN application. So you have your child. You want to apply for a TRN for your child. Yes, you can go ahead and initiate the process from your online account. However, it will not be approved until you
Until
actually
you go
take
in
in the
there.
original document. So we kind of have a far way to go with that because we're thinking about the security factors involved
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
that. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right, let's go back to the questions from
Yes.
Leslie Ann. If I earned less in 2020 than the
Hmm.
statutory obligation stated on my projected returns for the same
Yes.
2020 SO4A, am I
Yes.
obliged to pay all the taxes forecasted to be owed in 2020 or for my final return due March 15?
Lovely question. I love that
Yeah,
because a lot of persons, right, they say, okay, I pay on my quarterly, my estimated income. I pay up all these excessive amounts, and then no, rightfully at the end of the year, I don't make as much. So where does my taxes go? Where the excess goes to? All right. So one, if you pay the education tax and the income tax and you pay in excess of what the actual return is, then the amounts are transferred or forwarded to another year. So it would forward it to
oh,
2021 or even to 2022. The drawback to this form and these payments are for NHT and NIS, because we don't enforce them or administer them, then you'd have to go to those respective agencies. And NHT and no will tell you that, okay, you have to wait until because you know that you can apply 8 years back for NHT, you'd have to wait until you can apply for your refund, or it will stay just on your account until I'm not sure what they do with it. And the NIS will tell you, yes, you can apply for a refund as well, but it is a long process for them. So what I
all right.
normally tell persons once, yeah, I know I'm coming. What I normally
Yeah,
tell
because
persons,
I don't understand your response. I'm wondering if Leslie Ann is having the same challenge. So I want to ask,
challenge,
yeah, I want to ask
okay,
the question in a more straightforward way based on my understanding of her
yes,
question. So I'm
yes,
understanding that she's saying, suppose in
mm-hmm.
a 2020, I projected that I was
Yes,
gonna earn $5 million for the year, but
correct,
unfortunately, COVID came and I only earned $1 million.
right,
The projected 4 million, how
yes,
does the tax aid administration deal with that? Me never earned the 4 million. How
oh,
do I know, do I
mm-hmm.
have to pay on that $4 million, or are
Mm-hmm.
you just gonna charge me for the $1 million that I made?
All right, good. All right, so I take right. So different approach to the question now.
Right.
Right. So at the end of each year, when you're required now to submit or to declare your actual income to the government,
Yeah.
whatever you project
Mm-hmm.
is not final. If you get that,
Okay.
it is just a projection. So at the
Okay.
end of the calendar year, when you submit or you declare your true and correct income to the government, that information overrides the estimate
Ah,
or the
okay.
projection. So that 1 million, as going back to your example, that
Yeah.
$1 million will override that
Oh,
$4 million.
okay. Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right, Leslie, and you can raise your hand and let me know if I did the question justice.
Yes.
From Janet Cole, do I need to prepare a
Hmm.
financial statement if I have a loss for the year?
Yes, you do, because we need to know how you made a loss.
Yeah.
So where there's a profit or a loss, a financial statement is needed.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Someone is asking what is the minimum wage for the year?
All right. So the minimum wage for the year is 364,000 or $7,000 per week.
364,000 or
Yes, it is.
$7,000 per
For
week?
the week, yes.
Oh my God. All
Yes.
right. Question from Kiddis McCoy. Hey Kiddis, how are you, girl? All right. What if we make above minimum wage based on your example? Much of
Yes.
250, how much of the 250,000 would we pay? So she's asking if to make above the minimum wage,
Right.
what amount would she pay?
All right. So if it's above the 364,000, then
Mm,
you pay 3% of that for NHT, 5.875% of that for NIS, 2.25% of that for education tax. And if the income is above the minimum wage but below the income tax threshold of 1.5 million for the year, then you don't pay any income tax. If it is
wow.
above the 1.5, then we credit the minimum, we credit the income tax threshold, and whatever is left, 25% of that is for income tax.
All right. Let me ask a question. So
Yes.
let's say, for example, I made $1 million last year,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
When I'm going to file, do I get the opportunity, the option to
Mm-hmm.
take out the minimum wage first? So may I deduct the $364,000 because I'm not paying an income tax on that,
All
right?
right.
I'm
Thank you for
asking.
Yes, thank you for your question, but no, wrong.
Oh, okay, all
So the
right.
minimum wage is just like a ceiling that we use,
Hmm.
that you're out of that low income bracket, right?
Yeah.
To pay the other taxes and contributions in addition to
Okay.
the NIS. But the income tax threshold, that's what your question was referring to. The income
Oh,
tax right is 1,500,000
500,000. Yeah.
96 dollars. So if your income is below that, which is the 1 million as you stated, then you wouldn't pay any income tax.
But you don't get any
Right.
any any specific any special treatment for the 364,000.
No.
Oh, all right. Just want to
You just have to
understand.
pay. It's just
I'm
at once, yeah,
educating
man. Just
myself
once you're
here.
operating above that. Yes.
All right. Nancy came back. It's July
Mhm.
of 2019 that she started. Let me see. Let me see
July
if right. So she
2019.
registered as a limited liability company in
Yes.
July 2019, but she
Yes.
still has not started trading. So she's asking what does she do?
All right. So based on the Income Tax Act, I think it's section 72 of the act that states that whether you are in operation or not, you're still liable to declare income or no income at all on the tax form. And what we mean by that, you're still required to complete that tax form. So in your case, we ask that you do zero on the form. You prepare a letter to TAJ to say that, well, you did not make or you did not operate within that specified time. Hence, you're doing a zero return and you upload it on the system.
Okay.
Easy as that. No penalties. Once you do it on time, no penalties, no interest, nothing to pay, but you'll be tax compliant. Yes.
Okay. All right. Hold on there, cause I will have a question there. Say, just to go back to what was said before. Okay. Okay. If a business started operating in
Mhm.
2020, May 2020, but was actually registered in December, actual certificate states January, should you also file returns in March?
That's January
See,
2021.
I'm assuming, yeah.
no. So if it's January 2021, then all you'd be required to do is just do an estimate for 2021. And it's not necessarily, we're not hard and fast on that one. So if you want to operate for one full calendar year and wait to do your first final return by next year, that's not a problem. You don't have to go ahead and do a projection. But what I realize is some persons, of course, I know some persons would have benefited from NHT already, some persons have not. So in keeping with the NHG or NHG contribution, some persons go ahead and do their estimated taxes and start paying their NHG contributions just to get on NHT system then.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Question from Lisa Calendar. Is there a
Mm.
special allowance announced by the finance minister above the threshold for COVID hardships, or is that included in the threshold?
No, and no such announcements,
Okay.
unfortunately. So we're waiting maybe when the budget read this year, that's in March, that something will come up. But for now, nothing. No provisions have been made for that.
Okay.
Because rightfully though, if you really have not made much income, then all you do you just declare that and you pay less taxes, because the less income you have is the less you pay, the more income you have is the more you pay. We just
Okay.
want you to do correct reporting.
Okay. All
Yes.
right. Raquel Brown is asking if there is
Mhm.
a spreadsheet that assists in calculating payroll taxes.
There is no official spreadsheet. However, what we do is we invite persons that you come into the education unit, and we can even share a spreadsheet that we create, and we can give it to you and show you how the calculations are done. So if you know that you're gonna have employees and you're gonna withhold the taxes, don't stay where you are and say, okay, I don't know how the calculations are done. We have education units set up right across the island at the RSCs, that is the bigger offices. So for Kingston and St. Andrew, we have one in Kingston, one at the Constant Spring office. You come in to us. We invite you to come in. Please don't stay away so we can educate you on what to do.
All right. But here
Yes.
is my suggestion though, Rogerlene. You see, some of those tools that you have, even if it's something that the Taxpayer Education Unit create, now would be a
Yes,
great time to upload those online and to have sensitization sessions like these to say to our
that's
MSPs
true.
these are available, because
Yes.
again, nobody now go come in right now.
That
You
is so
understand?
true.
Yeah,
That's
nobody now go
that's
come
so
in right
true.
now.
But as you
So
know, we have to get the approvals. We can't
of
just,
course,
yes.
naturally, but
So
then
we have
it
to
could,
talk to communication on
yeah,
that. Yes.
it could be a direction that you look at
Yes.
coming up. All right, question from
Yes.
Jennifer. I made less than the minimum wage in 2019 and was assessed to pay NHT, NIS, and ed tax when I filed online. How do I get that corrected?
All right. If you made less than the minimum wage, it's definitely whether error on our part or error on your part. But I don't want to, because if you did, I realize that all right, at the start of each year, persons normally, they get edgy, they want to go on, they don't want to wait until March to do it. So if you made less than the minimum wage March, they want to just go ahead and
You
file the
froze
forms.
again.
Give me,
You
sorry,
froze.
yes, yes, I'm
Yeah,
froze again. I'm sorry, right.
yeah.
Right. So for example, last year, January, I know that persons went on before we had actually updated the form and did these tax forms that gave some wrong calculations. However, I'm not sure if that was the case for you. What I would like to see is I would like to see that form
Okay.
and the income that you'd have placed on the form, because another important thing in completing these forms is you have to try and read the forms carefully. So there's a very important question at the top. It asks, are you a resident of Jamaica? And if you not answer that correctly, then it will also bill you for income tax if you say that you're not a resident. So it's really completing the forms correctly, reading and understanding. And if you don't understand, we invite you to visit or call us. And I'll give you the taxpayer education numbers at the end of the question and answer sessions.
Um, where are your larger revenue centers located?
All right. So for Kingston and St. Andrew, we have Kingston office, we have Constant Spring. For Constant Spring covers St. Anne's Bay and St. Mary. St. Anne's Bay, St. Mary, Port Antonio. Kingston covers Kingston, St. Catherine, and the St. Thomas. And then we have down on the other side, we have the Mandeville office, which is a larger office, and Maypen. Yes, so Mandeville, Maypen, just trying to remember, and Montego Bay. Yes. So
Okay.
Maypen, Montego Bay, Mandeville, Kingston, Constant Spring. Yeah, 5 RSCs.
Okay. All
Mm-hmm.
right. All right. That seems to be the end of the questions, but I lost the ones that I wrote down. My phone did something that I didn't approve of it to do.
Okay.
But Rogerlene, this
Yes.
session has been very interesting and very educational.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing with us this morning. I
Yes.
think based on the conversation in the chat, I think it would be best for me to just send the slides as you have them here, because a
Okay.
lot of persons, because of the intermittent freezing, they didn't get a chance
Yes.
to. Yes, so I'll just send it out. um
Okay.
so thank you so much for having joined us this morning. Thank you for having shared with us. If there are no other questions,
Done.
this is where we're gonna take it. We're gonna leave it. We appreciate you too, Tanisha. Thank you for logging on. Thank you, Rosemary. Thank you,
Yes.
Max. Thank you, Tamara, Leslie, and I'm not calling any more names, but these are persons that have been with us from we started last year. They're always coming
Okay.
into the sessions. Could we get a number
Okay.
for an educator? All right. So
Yes.
do you want to go ahead and share your contact information?
Sure, no problem. All right. So if everybody's listening, you're writing down, I'm going to give you the education units number for the King Street office. That's where I'm located. So our landline is 924-9426. And here goes with the cell numbers. Or what are the percentages as well with the different payroll? Or another question coming in. All right, let me just give
Yeah,
you the numbers quickly.
yeah.
All right, so the numbers are 545-6807, 545 5946, 545-6221, and there are two more, 545-2319 and 545-6192. So those are all taxpayer education officers. We answer the calls from 8 to 5 in the evening. Some persons will accept WhatsApp call. You can even WhatsApp or voice notes. We do accept that as well.
All
Yes.
right, go ahead and respond to the question. What are the percentages that is associated with the
So
different
with the
payroll?
payroll, all right. So the payroll taxes, there are two percentages. We have for employees and we have for employers. So here goes. Education tax, the employees pay 0.25%. So that's 2.25%. And the employer pays 3.5% of that. That's education tax. For NIS, it's 3% for both employee and employer. For NHT, it's 2% for the employee, employer pays 3%. And the income tax still stands once the employee is earning below $125,008 for the month. No income tax or PAYE will be deducted. If they're earning above that, then 25% of that.
25% is a lot of money.
And then what we call, we
25%
have,
is a lot of money.
yeah, I know, but remember that they will factor in the income tax threshold, so we just don't tax it
Yeah,
25%
yeah,
straight.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yes,
That's
and
good.
then
That's
now
a good
there is,
part.
yes, so then now there's another deduction, which is a employer's deduction. That is a hard contribution. Employees don't pay this amount. Employers pay 3% of that amount of the total salary for the month. So if it's a case where you want, so for the income, going back to the income tax threshold, if your employees are weekly paid, then the income tax threshold for the year is $1,500,096. You just divide that amount by 52 weeks to get the weekly income tax threshold.
And what
And
is the
if
weekly income tax threshold?
I don't have the calculation in front of me right now, but somebody maybe can do it real quick. 1,500,096 divided by 52.
Hold on a second. Let me see if I can do it.
All
Where's the
right.
calculator? 1,000,000 five what?
596 dollars.
Divided by 52.
52 weeks,
So
yes.
that's $28,848.
Right. And then now if it's fortnightly paid, there are 26 fortnights for the year. You
Okay.
divide the same amount by 26 to get the fortnightly threshold to be guided by.
And that would be $57,696.
Right.
So
Yes.
once you get that in your salary, you don't
Once you get below that, you don't pay
oh,
income
so not
tax.
that amount, but below it.
Below that amount, yes.
All right.
Mhm.
Is there a situation where like there is an order in which taxes should be deducted? So we do the NHT first, the
Yes,
NIS, then
there's, yes.
okay, can you outline that please? Because Simone Dahl wants to know.
All right. So not for the self-employed individuals, but for the payroll taxes. There's a
Okay.
set order. So
Okay.
we ask that you take the NIS and the NHTs calculated straight from the gross salary.
Mhm.
However, when you're doing the education tax calculation, it is the gross salary less the NIS amount,
Oh,
and then you take the 2.25%, or if there's any
okay.
approved pension scheme. And it's likewise for the income tax. It is the gross salary less NIS, less income tax threshold, and less if there's any approved pension scheme, and then we take the 25%. So the person really end up paying less.
Okay.
Yes.
Do self-employed persons pay these rates? I think Calvin joined us late because you
Okay.
had gone through the different rates that the different
Right. The self-employment rates.
yeah, but if you could
Mhm.
just
Not
repeat
a
it since
problem.
he's here.
Not a problem. All right. So the self-employment rates are just a little bit higher than the employees rate, the payroll taxes rate. So the self-employment rates, the NIS is kind of hard to say, but it's 5.875%. Sorry, but it's a whole lot. And the NHT is 3%. The education tax for me at 2.25%, and the income tax is the same 25%. If the your profit or your income is above the 1,500,000 income tax threshold. Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Rogerlene, for joining us this morning, despite the
Yes.
many challenges that we had coming in. Oh my God, if you only knew the challenges that we had trying to log
Yes.
in this morning. But we are grateful that we were able to get the session done. Cleopatra is
Yes.
asking a question. This is
Mm-hmm.
the last question that we're going to take. What is the penalty, if any, for contract
Mm-hmm.
for service, not permanent
Mm-hmm.
employees, contract for
Mm-hmm.
service workers who earn below the threshold but have
Yes.
not filed the statutory, so that's like the NIS and the education tax? You understand that
Right.
question?
Yes.
Okay.
So those persons, even though yes, you are employed, but the fact that you are responsible to pay over your own taxes and contributions, we classify you as self-employed as well. So therefore, you'll be required to file, do your record as well of your income that you receive, or you ask them at the end of the year for a letter to confirm your salary, and yeah, the penalty apply if you don't file your SO4 on time, which is a $5,000 per month from the due date, which is March 15, up until the month that you file the form, unfortunately. Yes.
Okay. I see Sade Scott have her hand
And oh,
raised.
yes.
I'm going to unmute your mic, Sade.
Oh,
All right.
hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, good morning again. I just have one
Good
quick question,
morning.
right? So
Yes.
let's say I have a sole trader business and I want to upgrade my status to limited liability, right? To a
Yes.
limited. How does the taxation work for that? Would it still be the $1.5 million tax threshold that would apply to me as a registered as a company?
Yes. So, when you register as a limited company and you're a director of that company,
Mm-hmm.
um, some persons say, well, you have two taxes to pay, as when you register as a limited company, it is a separate entity from you, the individual.
Mm-hmm.
However, where the two taxes comes in is as a director of the company, based on legislation, a director is required to file their self-employed returns, because
Mm-hmm.
it is deemed that you'd be receiving a profit or an income, or what we call
Mm-hmm.
director's fee, from the company as well. So when you're
Mm-hmm.
doing your self-employed form, you capture how much income you'd have received from the company along with any other source of income. And yes, the income
Mm-hmm.
tax threshold would apply. However,
Mm-hmm.
in doing the company income tax return, there is no income tax threshold. So if you say that
Oh.
if your profit is $1 million, it is taxed 25% straight.
Mm.
And that is
Oh.
for unregulated companies, because regulated companies, those are those financial institutions regulated by OUR and BOG and Ministry of Finance. They pay 30%. So, for example, the banks, the loan agencies, they pay 30% of their profits.
Oh, so even if I
Yes.
have a loss for that period, I'm negative on my sheet, I still have
Yes.
to pay my income tax once I
No, you don't.
know.
Or you made a loss. Remember, we
Right.
can't take the percentage from a loss. Remember, I said, if you made a profit,
Okay.
so if it's a loss, you're still required to file your tax form,
Mm-hmm.
put forward your financial statement for us to see what is happening, but you won't
Mm-hmm.
pay anything additional as long as you do it by March 15. As
Okay.
long as no
And the form
penalties.
that applies, what forms apply? Is it the SO4 still? And
No. So it is called a ITO2, company income tax return. ITO2.
You know what? Rogerlene, I'm gonna have to invite you back,
Yeah, for a question session. Yes.
I just realized I'm gonna have to invite
Yes.
you back. And I'm gonna
Not a
invite you
problem.
back
That's a problem.
before March 15, because
Yes.
there are lots of questions that
Mhm,
persons
mhm.
have that
Yes.
they really need the help with. But I
Yes.
have a question, and this is a very feisty question. So I noticed that all of what you're saying is that
Yes.
we have to file because we have to make the returns, and we have to
Yes.
pay, and we have to remain compliant
Yes.
and all that. Is there any
Yes.
point at which there is a refund for any of
Fund.
these business people?
Unfortunately,
Oh my goodness, couldn't
no.
you say
No man,
yes?
no man. Let me clarify. Let me clarify. Because remember that we're working with the income tax threshold, and that is a tax-free amount
Right,
that we
right.
get. We don't touch that part of it, right?
Hmm.
So because the benefit from that, then no refund is applied. However, for employees, That
Yeah.
is either overtaxed, because remember employers can mess up the person's salary. So they
Yeah.
either they're overtaxed or they didn't work the full year, they can apply for income tax refund. So we got a lot of that last year. When COVID came about and a lot of persons got laid off, a lot
Yeah.
of persons applied for the refund, the unemployment refund.
Okay.
Yes.
Um, how does one rectify and apply for waiver of the penalty?
Okay. Yeah, and interestingly, I was looking for that question a long time ago. But
Really?
okay, the question, yes. All right. So even though I am trusting that these persons here will try and file on time, but should in case, because things happen, life happen, and you can actually file after March 15. And then we ask that you write a letter to the Commissioner General, and you put in your letter why you filed it late and why you can't afford to pay. And that is the very important part of it, why you can't afford to pay. And
Okay.
it's based on that you put there. When the committee meets, they decide whether this person should about that. I think I freeze up a while ago.
Yes, you did.
Hearing me now?
Yeah.
Right. So they may not grant the full 100% waiver, but they'll grant a portion of it and you'd have to pay. Or if they really see that, well, okay, this person look like they can make arrangement to pay, they will reject your waiver request and send it to the compliance unit to do a payment arrangement or agreement.
Okay. If
Yeah.
a person on the registration is just a silent partner,
Yeah.
are you required to file taxes for that person as well?
Um, no, providing that there is a letter from the person to say that they are a silent partner and they have not received any share of the profit.
Okay.
No, they're not
Um,
required to file.
and I'm sure you addressed how do I file a nil return for a sole trader business already
Yes. But if you want, I
several
can still,
times.
well, maybe this person came in late. So let me just quickly go back on that. For the nil return, all you do is just submit the form from your online portal. It is zero. So you wouldn't be billed for anything. And we ask that you write a letter to state the reason why you're doing a zero return. So if it's a case where no operations took place, you put that in the letter and you upload it in the return. Not a
Okay.
problem. Yes.
Does that filing, I guess the
Mhm.
filing affect your personal tax refund from other sources? I guess you're talking about the NHD refund. What could affect someone's NHD refund?
Nothing really, because the NHT refund you go back 8 years. So if you know
Okay.
that within
She said not NHD. Tell us
oh
what it is, Chandris, because
yes,
I don't know. I'm
yes.
not aware of any other
Only if you
organization.
could unmute her, let you ask a
All
question. Let me
right. I'm
see.
not
Yes.
aware of any other organization in Jamaica that gives
Refund.
refund.
Yeah.
All
Hi
right,
everyone.
Good
morning,
morning, Miss
Chandri.
Foster.
Good morning. Happy New Year.
Same to
Happy New Year
you.
to you.
Yes, so I was just about to call tax office and then I checked my email, saw that this seminar was
Okay.
going on. So I hopped on very late as you predicted. My apologies. But
Yes.
the question, the scenario that I'm in is that I was working with the National Health Fund, and
Right.
I was under a contract that they dubbed as self-employed. So we would annually go with our P24 to file for the tax because they what happened is they take out an excess amount, so we would usually qualify on an annual basis for a refund, a tax refund. Now, I am having an issue with the tax office because I must have accidentally filed an estimate for 2020 in the instance where no, my contract was closed out at December 2019. I must have, this was the time when COVID hit and they said we must file online. So I did an estimate for 2020. They are in the process of trying to remove that estimate, but I'm getting the runaround as to why I cannot get my refund. And in the same year of 2019, in April, I had registered a small sole trader business that, obviously the pandemic came and its operations was next to none. So I would, two things. I would like to know if, the filing that I did for the self-employment tax refund, if my business that is registered is affecting me receiving that refund. That's one. And two, you were saying the process of the filing for the sole trader, if that is affecting anything. Because I would like to do the nil filing for the business. So it's two filing under self-employment category.
All right, Chandris, I'm going to close back your mic because your background is very loud. So just listen for the
Oh, sorry.
response. Ladies and gentlemen, it appears that our speaker was unceremoniously kicked from the room, and so we no longer have her. What I'm going to ask you to do, Chandris, is send me an email with your query. My email address is scampbell@jbdc.net, and I will forward that email to Rogerlene for you. Um, Unfortunately, this is where we're going to end today. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. As you know, the JBDC office remains open. I encourage you, however, to give us a call or send us an email before you come in to the office. Our landline is 876-928-5161-5. That is our head office. Once you call there, you can get directed to any of our offices across the island, whether it is Montego Bay, Mandeville, Ocho Rios, whichever of the offices that you need to reach. Um, you will be able to do that. You can also send us an email at info@jbdc.net. Again, it will be redirected to the relevant person who will make contact with you. Because of the COVID restrictions, I suggest, as I said, that you go ahead and call in for an appointment before you show up. The recording for this session should be available by the latest Friday. For the persons that were in this session, we will send you the the PowerPoint slides so that you can have access to that. And again, Chandris, just drop me an email, scampbell@jbdc.net, and I will forward it to Rogerlene for you. And then you can begin the conversation from there, because that sounds like an issue that no matter how hard I try, I would never be able to assist you with it. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. We have another session coming up at 1 o'clock from our technical side. We're going to be focusing on lavishly leather jewelry pieces. So if you can join us at 1 o'clock, please go ahead and do so. But for now, thank you so much for having joined us, and have a great rest of the day. Bye.